Thank you. Let me convey to you, first of all, fraternal greetings from Mauritius, and thanks a lot for technology to allow me to be present virtually. Let me now start my speech. I grew up in an era of colonialism when the British ruled the waves. On Empire Day, we sang Rule Britannia. My moment of rejoicing came when the colonial government stated that, I quote, Mauritius is the star and key of the Indian Ocean and commands the sea and air routes between Asia, Africa, and Australia. I longed for the day when my country would be independent. And on the 12th of March, 1968, and I'm sure you know the reason as to why the 12th of March was chosen, of course, in honor of Mahatma Gandhi when he led the Salt March. So on the 12th of March, 1968, we became independent. And independence, which is not complete due to violation by UK of UN resolutions 1514 and 2066. Therefore, any facility to be extended to any reliable partner for monitoring and surveillance should be in strict compliance with the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity. The political landscape has changed since the days of Rule Britannia. The UK Times of the 8th of December 2016 reported that the UK government has decided to stop temporarily operating aircraft carriers to save money. Today, India is called upon to be the security provider of the Indian Ocean. Washington is happy to see India develop further its role as security provider. US Congress has passed a bill declaring India as a major defense partner. And I've been told that bunkering and refueling facilities in Diego Garcia has been extended to India by the lessee. As an economic and political powerhouse, India should never lose sight that it is the most populous democracy of the world. Geography provides India with considerable strategic advantages, but the success of India to develop security relationship in the region rests on its democracy. With the end of Cold War and compelling magnetism of globalization, I quote, both the nature and scales of threats have changed, while the question of human security has become increasingly significant. Many analysts see a significant danger of an increasing strategic contest between China and India in the Indian Ocean as they jostle for influence and position in ways reminiscent of US-Soviet rivalry during the Cold War. The region of 51 states has been characterized as being akin to an arc of crisis since it contains many poor, unstable states which are beset by lateral land-based and or maritime disputes. It comprises of Indian Oceanic order, characterized by heterogeneity, fragmentation into sub-regional systems, and emergent regionalism, subordination to large regional powers, and realization of the actual importance of the ocean itself, both as a highway and environment. As the third biggest ocean, the Indian Ocean is becoming the ocean of the 21st century. The center of gravity of geopolitics has shifted more significantly to the Indian Ocean because of looming opportunities despite possible threats. It has the world's largest concentration of littoral states, rich in oil and gas reserves. The region boasts 80% of the world's proven oil reserves and 17% of natural gas. 40% of global seaborne commerce move across the ocean, 1/5 of which comprises oil and gas. Over 25 million barrels of oil transit through the Straits of Hormuz every day. The risk of military escalation at the strategic choking point exists. The Indian Minister of Defense, Mr. Manohar Parrikar, in a speech delivered on the 10th of December in Mauritius, made it clear, and I quote, that as the geopolitical pivot of the world shifts from the Atlantic to the Indian Ocean, ensuring the safety of a shared maritime domain would be central to safeguarding the future of humanity. Therefore, the lessons to be learned from the escalation of military tension prevailing in the Western Pacific. China landed a plane on one of the runways it has illegally constructed on the artificial islands in the disputed Spratly Islands area of the South China Sea. The Arbitration Tribunal, under the United Nations Convention Law of the Sea, ruled that the claims of China, based on historical reason, does not have legal substance. Preventive diplomacy means that the process should be inclusive and no country should be denied the freedom of navigation in international waters. The reply given by President Obama that China has been isolated by like-minded Asian nations in the Western Pacific does not minimize the risk of state conflict. The messages tweeted by President-elect Trump following the congratulatory phone call he received from the President of Taiwan has been interpreted as a provocation. Tying trade with one China policy is a major aggravating factor. Washington has to reassure allies it will stand by them and guarantee freedom of navigation in international waters, while simultaneously not going so far as to draw China into military confrontation. The Australia-India Institute argue for a model of regionalism that is inclusive of Indian and Chinese interests and of bilateral relationship with the United States of America. There is a strong case for formal trilateral dialogue among Australia, India, and USA to address common security challenges in the Indo-Pacific region. Robert Kaplan, the geopolitical strategist, stated that China is not an enemy of the US, but a legitimate peer competitor, and India is a budding ally. And I quote him, "And the rise of the Indian Navy, soon to be the third largest in the world, after those of US and China, will function as an antidote to Chinese military expansion. The task of US Navy will be to leverage the sea power of its closest allies, India in the Indian Ocean and Japan in the Western Pacific, to set the limits on China's expansion," unquote. Keeping peace in the Indian Ocean has been compelling, crucial. The rivalry between emerging powers will exist. India therefore needs to have an effective naval force to make the most of its geostrategic advantages for better outreach to its bases, places, and resources. The increase in the defense budget confirms the commitment of the Modi government, an instrument of offense, to quote the naval strategist Alfred Mahan. Since the Indian Ocean is the bastion of India, it has a moral and legitimate obligation to be the security provider of the Indian Ocean. Therefore, as an emerging power, it has to address its complex internal problems to sustain its military gain and make up for lost ground in respect of the growing dominance of China. The latter intends to become a two-ocean power, both in the Pacific and Indian. To achieve this, China is investing in deep water ports in Burma, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. As Tim Marshall, author of the book Prisoners of Geography, points out, it is an investment that buys China good relations, the potential for its future navy to have friendly bases to visit or reside in, and trade links back home. The Indian Ocean and Bay of Bengal ports are part of an even bigger plan to secure China's future. Its lease on the deep water port at Gwadar, Pakistan, will be key if the Pakistan region of Balochistan is stable, to create an alternative land route up to China. From Burma's west coastline, China has built natural gas and oil pipelines. linking the Bay of Bengal up into southwest China. China's way of reducing its nervous reliance on the Strait of Malacca, through which almost 80% of its energy supplies pass. However, the maritime sea route remains the best highway. Ferry more for less. The ruggedness of overland geography makes the cost of infrastructural investment prohibitive. The sea line of communication should be protected. Freedom of navigation is vital for the Indian Ocean to emerge as the mainstay of global economy. As Delhi and Beijing press to maintain economic growth, the dependency on safe transport of resources will intensify, each strengthening ties with regional states to secure respective security and economic ties. From string of pearls, maritime silk route, or nuggets of gold, both India and China have to develop initiatives to bolster infrastructure and connections in the region. The Indian Ocean is the lifeblood and the lifeline of India, China, Japan, South Korea, and of other countries beyond the Indian Ocean. Both India and China scouring the length and breadth of Africa for minerals and precious stones, and China more than India, through concessionary loans and grants, is investing massively on the African continent to address supply-side constraints. However, China, like India, can be overpowering and has at times been accused of being the new colonial masters. As Africa develops economically and stabilizes politically, the continent will provide further impetus to the Indian Ocean trading network. India is procuring coal from Mozambique and liquefied natural gas from South Africa. Let us now look at the geostrategic advantages of India and its consequences. The question has been asked, what countries in the Indian Ocean would be willing to host Chinese vessels in an acute crisis that involved India or US? Is it likely or unlikely to be Pakistan? The question says it all. India remains the preferred security provider. As the former Indian Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Mehta, once commented, the weak area for China today is the Indian Navy. We sit in the Indian Ocean, and that is a concern for China, and they are not happy, as it is not so easy for them to come inside. On the 26th of June 2015, India released the master plan for the Indian Ocean region. It injected new dynamism into the Indian Ocean Rim Association to promote regional cooperation in the littoral and launched the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium that convenes all the naval chiefs in the littoral for professional exchanges and engagement to promote maritime security. The Indian Minister of Finance is keen for the Indian Ocean Rim Association to walk the talk and be in the vanguard, and I quote, "We need an integrated approach to combat threats such as illegal fishing, drug trafficking, piracy, and terrorism. We also need to coordinate our policy approaches to improve our disaster preparedness and to respond effectively to climate change issues." The Indian Ocean Rim Association, he goes on to say, is uniquely poised to bring together like-minded regional partners under the umbrella of cooperation for executing our shared goals for peaceful, sustainable, and prosperous future in the Indian Ocean region. The Indian Ocean Rim Association is a valuable platform for supplementing our efforts to strengthen our regional maritime security cooperation, end of quote. Prime Minister Modi's visit to Seychelles and Mauritius provided him with an opportunity to signal that the Indian Ocean littoral is at the top of Delhi's policy priorities. Delhi also initiated trilateral security arrangements, coordinated at the level of national security advisors between India, Sri Lanka, and Maldives in 2011 to expand maritime security cooperation to become the five-nation security arrangement inclusive of Mauritius and Seychelles. Since the terror attack on Mumbai at the end of November 2008, Delhi has been acutely conscious of potential attacks coming from the sea, has to be mindful of its neighbor harboring militants, and needs like-minded countries for counterinsurgency. Acknowledging the growing strategic significance on the Indian Ocean in global politics, Prime Minister Modi stated that Delhi will work to ensure a safe, secure, and stable Indian Ocean that delivers us all to the shores of prosperity. The second dimension of Prime Minister Modi's framework focuses on deepening security cooperation with regional partners, hence the Radar initiative to build a maritime domain awareness network across the Indian Ocean. India has a valuable foothold in Mauritius and agreed to develop infrastructure for connectivity in one of our islets called Agaliga. But the caveat remains the sovereignty issue. The official visit of the Indian Minister of Defense to Mauritius and his meeting with the Mauritian Prime Minister and former Prime Minister is of great significance. Besides, an Indian naval vessel is conducting bathymetric studies, nautical charting, and hydrographic survey in our exclusive economic zone. The data will be invaluable for our blue economy and also gives India comparative advantage. India, of course, is proactive and reactive. Any unilateral military exercise by China is followed by a large multilateral one led by India. I have in mind, of course, the Indian-led Milan exercise, which is held biennially. But of course, politics, especially diplomacy, is the art of possible, and there is the possibility to unite rival states. Despite peer competition and potential tension between India and China, piracy has the potential to unite rival states along the Indian Ocean coastline. Given successful examples of nations collaborating to address the threats of piracy, natural disasters, and maritime boundary disputes, drug smuggling, one could see the Indian Ocean as a laboratory for the art of possible. Expanded cooperation is inevitable. The prospect for improved regional governance are good, and many issues relating to soft and smart diplomacy have to be on the agenda of the Indian Ocean Rim Summit, which will be held in 2017 in Indonesia next year for the 20th anniversary of the Indian Ocean Rim Association. China and India have expressed eagerness to assume greater responsibility in policing maritime global commons and to be recognized as major powers. China's activities are likely to expand in conjunction with its One Belt, One Road initiative, which according to experts will not come at India's expense. India is not going to come to terms. India is going to come to terms, and I quote, India is going to have to come to terms with China's entry into Indian Ocean, states Chinese Samaranayaka. New Delhi could also benefit from partnering with Beijing to integrate the region and also give new impetus to the Indo-Pacific region. Broader initiatives like the BRICS Development Bank and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank are pulling India into larger leadership role along China. We have to appreciate the role played by the European Naval Forces and Coalition Action Task Force 151 to thwart threats from ocean terrorists and pirates. Let me conclude by saying that UK has the right to have observer status in the Indian Ocean Rim Association. However, it cannot be there on the basis of territories which are under dispute. The process of decolonization is not complete unless Mauritius can exercise full sovereignty over its territories. The Chagas Archipelago, which has been leased to US, has been the subject of sovereignty dispute between Mauritius and UK since its purported detachment from Mauritius shortly before Mauritius was granted independence by the UK in 1968. An arbitral tribunal convened under Annex 7 of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea recently decided that in establishing a marine protected area in the Chagos Archipelago, the UK was in breach of its obligations under international law. In the Chagos Marine Protected Area arbitration, Mauritius versus UK, it was held that an undertaking given by UK to Mauritius, that the Chagos Archipelago be returned to Mauritius when it was no longer needed for defense purposes, was legally binding. Mauritius will move a UN resolution to seek an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice. Mauritius will come to terms with the US on renewal of lease of Diego Garcia when it will be able to exercise its legitimate sovereignty claim over its territorial integrity. Of course, we expect like-minded countries to be fully supportive of Mauritius. If and when the resolution is moved, we expect like-minded countries, and I stress upon this, to be fully supportive of Mauritius. According to the Prime Minister of Mauritius, the support of India is guaranteed. I've been told that the unequivocal support has been reiterated by the Indian Minister of Defense. Finally, irrespective of size, irrespective of exclusive economic zone, there's no small country. And no country would like to live in the shadow of emerging force superpower. In a multipolar world system, a multipolar agreement should be concluded. Foreign policy has to be reassessed to make multilateral organization more responsive. The Indian Ocean Rim Association has to walk the talk. Thank you very much.